Hi there, Brian Bram from Eagles Wings Community Church, and doing something a little bit different. Recently I had a class on theologizing in the Emergent Church, and the class basically went down where we had a list of 10 books to read on the Emergent Church, and we were supposed to pick 5, and so I read 5 books in a few weeks on the Emergent Church, written by Emergent authors. And then we had 1 week of class discussion and conversation about the Emergent Church and about the books that we read. So we averaged about 6 hours a day talking about the Emergent Church and all kinds of other things that came up. So at the end of the class, I was given the opportunity to sort of come up with a project. And so as part of my project, I've decided to sort of bombard social media with blogs and tweeters and videos, of course. And my hope is to learn from the Emergent Church so that I can sort of implement it into what we're doing at Eagles Wings. So my hope is really to learn and ultimately to steal. That's right, I am a thief. I will steal good ideas from other people. So in my blog I cover 4 themes that I see that are prevalent in the Emergent Church. So I'm not going to tell you what those are. You're going to have to check out the blog for that, keep you in suspense. There's a couple of themes that I don't talk about in my blog that I should mention here in the video. The first one is technology. It's not that I don't see the Emergent Church as being heavily influenced by the use of technology. I just think that lots of other churches are jumping on that bandwagon as well. Just about everyone has a website, for example. I also didn't use the theme of space in the blog itself. If I had to do 5 themes in the blog, I would have used space. But let's face it, 5 gets all the attention, while 4 really very often gets ignored, and 5 is just overused. And I think maybe it's because 4 can't be trusted, especially in a voting situation. You can always end up with a tie, and 5 can always be trusted to yield a decision. So anyways, I like to go against the grain, so I decided I'd pick 4 for the blog and then save space in the blog for the video. My pun there is intended, saving space. Anyways, bad jokes. The Emergent Church, I think, largely rejects or at least pushes against the idea of sacred space, and I think that's an important distinction, that we definitely can recognize a difference between theory and actual practice. So it is possible in theory to sort of reject or push against the idea of sacred space, but then actually do it in practice. And so it's important, I think, to try to observe whether that's actually happening or not. But one of the things that seems to be very prevalent in the Emergent churches is regarding spaces, that they seem to be very willing to meet just about anywhere, which I don't necessarily think is a bad thing at all. There's sort of the idea of bringing the church out to the world. So they're willing to meet in coffee shops, in movie theaters, in bars, in homes, renovated commercial buildings, and on and on and on. And that's not to say necessarily that just because a church is meeting in those spaces that they would call themselves an Emergent church, but it might be that they're sort of subconsciously influenced by the movement of the Emergent church. I actually have a new friend who is a pastor in a bar. They're having a bar church up north in northern Minnesota. And seems to be going well. I have some first-hand knowledge about another church that renovated an old brewery, and they have services in an old brewery. So lots of ideas for where to have church in terms of space. I think that one of the thoughts that seems to be prevalent also concerning the Emergent church and space is that they seem to have this extension of the idea of the priesthood of all believers, which basically just means that we no longer have to go to a priest. We can go to God ourselves in prayer. And they seem to have kind of extended that same motif to go into the idea of a universal expansion of the altar. So they don't necessarily have as much emphasis on sort of a main stage and that sort of thing. So that's a little bit interesting as well. The feeling or the thoughts of a lot of the people that are in the movement might be other examples, like they might see sort of a similar sacredness, or I guess in a lounge chair, as somebody might in a prayer stool. A painting can be just as beatific as stained glass would maybe be another example of that. So finally, I just want to say, as we go throughout the series, hopefully you'll follow the whole series or as much as you can and make comments. That would be great as well. But I just want to say that there are things for my own personal view on the Emergent Church. There are some things that I really like, and then there are some things that I'm very skeptical of. And that's kind of ironic, probably, since that's a little bit of the milieu of the Emergent Church, is to be skeptical, and or at least call some things into question. So, but anyways, that's for later. So check out the blog, and blessings to you.